computers are born. Resistance is futile. Your life as it has been is over. From this time forward, you will service us.
No! We will not service Washington.
Mr. Worf, fire.
Well, welcome to another episode of Renegade Ramblers Radio. The date is March the 5th. And we should have a pretty interesting show. We have Suzanne Sherman on the line, and we'll get this all started here. I believe you're ready to go there, Jeff.
I am ready. Do you have a rant for us tonight?
Oh, I have a rant. I have an update to an earlier rant, and then a rant attached to the original rant.
All right. Well, lay your rant on us.
All right. Well, this is an update to the utility post or water utility post I had back in October before we were doing the show back on my blog. And it starts out, I wrote a post on Hamden Township stormwater utility where they were complaining about the Navy Depot and PennDOT not paying their utility bill, quote unquote, and how the borough was crying foul. Now, to give you a little bit of backstory, this was the borough said that the EPA said they had to clean up their stormwater before it could go into the Susquehanna River because the Chesapeake, everything's going to die in Baltimore because stormwater is leaving a township in Cumberland County and not being filtered and processed, and you get the whole idea. So they were complaining because the Navy Depot and PennDOT were not paying for the stormwater runoff on their property. Basically, this would be akin to what Maryland was doing, which was charging a tax for stormwater runoff. They were taxing you for if the water hit your tires, if it ran off your roof. You get the idea. So anyway, this is an update to that. Well, after the first 3 months of this year now, they have also been faced with a Kmart store closing down, a Dick's Sporting Goods leaving the township and going to another area, and an H.H. Gregg now closing. This frees up a lot of concrete space in the borough, or the township, I mean. So I'm curious where they're going to get their taxes from now. Could the taxes be the reason why they left? I mean, utility related. Well, in the case of Kmart, probably not. Kmart Sears has been dealing with financial issues for many years. This isn't the first time they've had issues, but the store has been there ever since I can remember, probably about 30, 40 years. So that store closed down. And now with the H.H. Gregg and the Dick's closing down, the Dick's is probably moving because of the tax. They're going to the mall, which is a couple hundred yards from their Field and Stream store. And then H.H. Gregg is also in a financial pickle. They said the store is no longer profitable. So they're completely closing down. So they're going to be hurting for some tax money they thought they were going to get. Now, last week I learned on the local news, I should never watch the local news. All it does is get my blood pressure up. But now last week I learned that Cumberland County, where Hamden Township is located, can you imagine that, is crying foul over Airbnb. Now, this might not have ever used Airbnb. I don't think I would ever use it, but it's that people rent out their houses for a night or whatever. And you did up in New Hampshire there, Jeff, when you went up there. But anyway, people aren't paying the hotel tax. The hotel tax is 3% of the total bill goes to the county, and there's a 6% sales tax, which there's a 6% sales tax for everything in this state except for food and clothing. So I don't think that's a separate hotel tax, but they called it a hotel tax on the news. They are upset because that 3% tax that Cumberland County says they're owed is supposed to pay for tourism. That they're responsible for tourism. I would have thought that would have been the hotel's job, tourism, but I didn't realize the government had to collect money for tourism. But the government says they have to collect money for tourism. Now, the part about this is they're taxing people that pay for their property. So if you pay for your property now, is the person paying the mortgage own the property, or the city and state own the property? Will it take the residents moving out of the area to get the county and state to realize that Pennsylvanians are tired of being taxed? The county says it needs these funds to help promote tourism. I, however, cannot find anything in the respective state constitution or the charters of the county or localities that give the government the power to tax hotels in order to promote tourism. Sure, general taxes are needed, but tourism? Again, why is the government buying advertising space to try and get people to come visit? There's nothing in Cumberland County worth visiting. Sorry, people, I lived there. There's nothing there. There's a big Army base. If you're going to the Army, the War College, great. Guess what? The government pays you to be there. There's a war museum. Okay. I lived in the county all this time. It's been built for like 10 years. I've never been in there. I've been outside, watched the kids play around the tanks. I mean, not that I think that's an actual good thing, but So really, what in Cumberland County is so worth visiting? We have no sports teams. We have no really anything worth coming. But anyway, they say they need this money for tourism. So when I'm glad I don't live in Cumberland County. Now, some will say just vote with your feet and move, to which I laugh. The problem with conservatives is what we do. We just vote with our feet. We walk away. We simply leave. However, the problem is we're running out of areas to go. We must start fighting to stop this, or we must all collect in one state and leave this corrupt union once and for all. The reason liberals have been able to do a steady march toward progressivism and liberalism is because they don't leave. They don't accept prisoners. You either believe the way they want you to believe, or they demonize you until you submit to them. There is no middle ground. And the only thing they crave is power. They crave power. They want to tell you what to do and how to do it and when to do it and why to do it. And they want you to be a good little slave. The conservative, on the other hand, never presses the advantage. When they have it, and they never seem to leave, and they never seem to have the fortitude to roll back on the overreach done by the progressives when the progressives were in power. So the people get mad at them and they put the progressives back in because the conservatives aren't getting anything done. They always seem content with the red line in the sand. You know, the whole this far, no further. Conservatives draw a red line in the sand, and then, the sand covers it up, and they all step back. They draw a new line in the sand, and the wind covers it up, and they move on back. They never move forward. It's always backwards. When will the mass populace wake up? Who knows? However, I can tell you more and more people are getting tired of the government taxes and regulations. So maybe they are starting to wake up. I shall try to remain hopeful and pray that they wake up soon, but I don't know. I don't think they're going to until the collapse. But that is my radio spot tonight. And yes, I kind of ad hoc'd it off of what I wrote, but you can read the entire piece on renegadebaileys.com. So what'd you think, Jeff?
Well, it kind of fit in with my ramble for tonight because I kind of was on a similar page and we didn't even talk about this. You want me to take off on it? I think I can finish it and in about
If
4,
you think-
maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah, we got that long. Go ahead.
Okay. My ramble for March 5th, 2017. If it please the crown. If you're on social media, all you could not have missed all the memes. If it please the crown, there are ones related to just about anything we must beg government permission to do. The truly pitiful thing is, people still think they are free. We are no less slaves today than any other groups of slaves through history. The only difference is that we serve political masters. They are in Washington, D.C., or in your county seat. So let's dispense with this whole facade of land of the free. We are tax, fees, fines, license, and regulatory slaves. Think I'm wrong? Try not paying any tax, fee, or fine, or obey any regulation. Tell me how free you are when they send the guys with guns. The license master you serve comes in all forms. Want to cut hair? Get a license. Want to drive a car? Carry a firearm concealed? Fish, hunt, be a contractor, doctor, or a nurse? Get a license. I can hear it now. We need government to keep us safe. Poppycock. We need licenses so government can control how we make a living, move about, own a firearm for self-defense, and what we do in our leisure time. It's all about them controlling us, period. We are completely incapable of doing anything safely without their input. Society would come to an end without government. Oh, and do not forget their fees. Oh, how they do love their fees. We are nothing more than a revenue source. We are resources, so the next time you want to exercise some of that freedom, don't forget to beg, if it please the crown, and cough up the dough. And the if it please the crown meme that got me started on this rant of a ramble was one begging the government permission to build a deck. He is the regulatory slave master. You cannot build a deck without getting permission. Then you have to build it the way the master says, or guess what? Yep, fines. This is bad enough, but that was not what sent me off to ranting and raving. It went on to talk about paying taxes on the property. Bam! Rant on. A little over a year ago, I paid off my mortgage on my house and property. That should be a happy day, right? No. The government either stole the property or they extort me to allow me to use it. What am I talking about? The deed on the courthouse says I own the property. By legislation, the government stole the property and charges me rent yearly to continue to stay on it. Stop paying the rent? Who owns the property? Not me. If the deed is correct and I do own the property, then the yearly fee is extortion. Frederick Bastiat called it legal plunder. Government doing through legislation that which I could go to jail for doing. If you fail to pay the required extortion, your tax master will send men with guns to force your compliance or by force remove you from the property. Then they will confiscate your former property and sell it to the next tax slave. Either way, if it please the crown, I will pay your rent or extortion. Please let me keep living here. Man, do I feel free? I hope these memes have got a lot of people thinking. The public school brainwashing is hard to overcome. The Pledge of Allegiance, national anthem, wrapping the government in the flag have blinded people to the fact that they are slaves to their ruling elite masters. Try and break free from them. Try to break free from the tax, fee, license, or regulations of tax or slave masters. Seriously, I dare you to try. Yeah, I didn't think so. If it please the crown, I will do what you require. Please don't send the men with the guns. That's my ramble for March 5th, 2017. If you want to read it and comment on it, it's at blatherings.wordpress.com. blatherings.wordpress.com. And I think that's going to take us to a break because we went pretty long that section. And we're going to come right back with our guest, Suzanne. This is Renegade Ramblers Radio, where renegade thinking is always outside of the box.
came along. Everyone that knew him knew which side that he'd be on. He never was a hero or this county's shining light, but you could always find him standing up for what he thought was right. He'd say, you've got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. You've got to be your own man, not a puppet on a string.
Every time I go to the DMV, this is what I hear.
Show me the money! Show me the money!
Every time I go to get my hunting license,
Show me the money! Show me the money!
my building permit,
Show me the money! Show me the money!
well, every time I deal with government.
Show me the money! Show me the money!
Yeah, we're sick of hearing
Show me the money! Show me the money!
Renegade Ramblers Radio, where renegade thinking is always outside of the box, and we're not going to say,
Show me the money! Show me the money! It was a beautiful day. The sun beat down. I had the radio on. I was driving. The trees went by. Me and Del were singing a little runaway. I was flying. Yeah, running down the train. They never would come to me. Where people miss.
welcome back, everyone. This is Jeff Johnson with Dan Bailey, and this is Renegade Ramblers Radio. And tonight we have a special guest. We have Suzanne Sherman from Veritas Radio Network and the Suzanne Option joining us to talk about a little bit of federalism. Welcome to the show tonight, Suzanne.
Hi, how are you?
California, and if you can find her in the hinterlands, maybe you can hire her. Suzanne. I forgot all about your very own music there, Suzanne.
Can I talk now?
Yes, you can talk now.
I love that intro. Thank you very much. Hey, I had a quick comment going back to that tourism tax that Daniel was mentioning in his segment there. And it would seem to me it would be incumbent upon the hotels and resorts that are trying to draw the tourists in to be the responsible parties for attracting tourists, not the taxpayers.
Yeah,
I would agree, Suzanne. The problem is, it's just like everything else. I just was at the gas station the other day getting fuel in my truck. Pennsylvania just raised their gasoline and fuel taxes. It is now 50 cents a gallon cheaper for me to go into New York State to buy gasoline in Pennsylvania. It's the same thing. It's just the government thinks that they have to do everything for us and we can't do a thing. And, again, it's all the regulations, it's all the fees, it's all the fines, it's gotten out of control. And I agree that, those motels should take care of their own. It's an ad, really, when you think about it. It's just like in New York State. What's their big ad they always do? I love New York. I remember those old TV ads about I love New York and try to get people to come to New York. I'm sure Utah has their own state ads. It's like, why is the government producing ads for the state? If someone wants the Chamber of Commerce should do that, shouldn't they?
On a related note, just the day after on let's see, on November 15th. Now, this was a Republican-controlled House now that we have voted in favor of a tax on concrete to placate the special interests in Washington, D.C. And what we had here was it was a bill that was introduced that would create a concrete masonry products board, just what we need, composed of 15 to 25 members appointed by the Department of Commerce, which is also unconstitutional, after a referendum approved by producers of the concrete masonry products. The board will have the power to establish, finance, and carry out a coordinated research and education program, ostensibly to promote masonry products in the domestic market. Here's the interesting thing. We have an assessment now, which is what we really know is a tax, and that's going to be a tax on concrete. And here's the thing. They tried to get this sort of a board to be implemented within the industry itself, which would be used in turn to promote and encourage others to use masonry concrete products. And those members of the industry said, no, we're not interested in doing it. So what did they do? They got some special interest lobbyists to go to Washington and get our lovely GOP controlled House to do this, to do their dirty work on their behalf. And one of the Republicans, Bishop, from out here in Utah, voted, gave a yay to this silly little tax.
All right, I'm not really familiar with this. Is this a Utah tax or is this a federal tax?
No. This is HR 985, Concrete Masonry Products Research, Education, and Promotion Act, and this
so it's the federal government.
This was in 2015. This came out, yeah. But this was just once again, when you mentioned this tax to promote tourism, I thought, wait a minute, because I remember being upset about a guy out here named Bishop that voted for something similar to promote concrete, and they could not find the support within the members of the industry. So what did they do? They just went to Washington, and lo and behold, we have another tax and another board, more federal employees. Yay!
Yay!
I thought
Yay us! Aren't we freer? We're so much freer today for that. I was thinking about that. This is basically, I think that's the backdoor value-added tax almost. You remember that was that big thing they were trying to do, a value-added tax. So when the coal came out of the ground, they were going to tax it because they produced coal.
At every step of the way.
At every level, they were going to tax it.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, isn't that just like a backdoor value-added tax? So now they're going to produce this concrete and they're going to tax it there. And then when it goes somewhere else, they're going to tax it again for sales tax because they sold it. And it's just a kind of a backdoor value-added tax. And by looking at it.
I wanted to share another story too. When you were talking about, we really think we're free. We'll try and let me see if I can shoot a deer on my own property without permission from the Crown. An example out here in Utah is we have these little critters called, they call them pot gut squirrels locally, but they're the Paiute ground squirrel, and they're considered a form of vermin. They're very destructive, and you can shoot them anytime. They're only above ground from probably April through August, and it's no limit. You can shoot all that you want. But if you want to take care of a problem you have with a weasel, you have to appeal to the Crown. You have to call the Department of Natural Resources and ask them to send a trapper to come and handle your problem for you, because I have had one of these licenses. It's called a fur bearer's license, and you have to pay a state trapper. They'll come out and quote, take care of it for you. But why do I not have the right unless I have a fur bearer's license? Because that's how they sell these licenses. So these people will pay $40 and they have an exclusive, they have a monopoly to come on my property and take care of weasels at their own time. Weasels can go in there and clean out my chicken coop, and I'm supposedly not supposed to be able to solve this problem on my own. Now, here I am, a woman living out by myself in a very remote area with my children, and I'm supposed to allow a stranger, I will say probably 99.99% it's going to be a male, to come up here and assess my situation. This is a massive PERSEC and OPSEC violation. And he's going to come here and trap weasels because the Crown says I don't have that right. Guess what? I take care of my own damn weasels.
Yes. And that was you've seen all these memes I'm talking about, this if it pleases the Crown.
Oh, I love them.
I
Although
love
they
them.
pleases, and it's supposed to be say please, as Dr. Gutzman informed everybody. And it makes sense because I never really thought about it, but I remember when I practiced law, if it pleased the court. Yeah, okay.
No, that's what I must have done it right because I didn't see his post, but then I did put if it please. But anyway, yes, and that was one of the things I put on there is about hunting licenses. That's back here. It's the same way. If you want to go shoot a deer or shoot a coyote, or I mean, the coyotes are just nuisances back here. We have so many of them. You shoot a turkey or a bear, you have to go beg the crown. Can I please have a hunting license? And then cough up, in my case, if I hunted in-state in New York, it's $100 for an in-state license. Or I have been hunting in Pennsylvania now. Out-of-state license in Pennsylvania is $125. So, it's over $100 for me to go hunting, no matter whether I'm in-state or out-of-state anywhere now. And it's ridiculous. On top of the excise taxes on fuels and all the fees, my property taxes, in which, oh my gosh, that's what really set me off on that one, is the whole idea of property taxes. I just get so angry at those.
Oh yeah, and I have to pay almost $2,000 a year, the vast majority of which goes to support a school that I don't even use. Apparently now there's talk of legislation that will give homeschoolers, I guess, some sort of a credit from the overlords in DC for not utilizing the government indoctrination camps. But here's the kicker. What happens when you accept money from the overlords in DC, which we are the ones who sent it to them in the first place? But what I see now, and what other people are talking about that homeschool as well, is that now we are going to have to meet certain federal criteria. And I'm just glad one of mine is 18 and out of that whole area where he's not under their control, and the other one's 16, and we're almost done. And when he is no longer subject to these rules and regulations, I will come out publicly and say how I have handled this. I've always done this under the radar, and even in Utah, there are a plethora of rules and things that you're supposed to do, and nobody's challenged me. But my neighbor, actually, who lives up the road here, her children are grown and out of the home, and they said that a judge down here in Summit County made her put her children in school just because they thought it was a better lifestyle option for the children.
Yeah, I read an article a couple weeks ago about the Homeschooling Association opposing this new bill that's coming out into our great Republican Congress. It was some freedom of choice or whatever, school choice bill. So we have just about 30 seconds to break. So I'm just going to shut up and let Daniel take us to break. This is Renegade Ramblers Radio, where renegade thinking is always outside the box.
Locutus are born. Resistance is futile. Your life, as it has been, is over. From this time forward, you will service us. Mr. Wolf.
Tired of servicing to cybernetic organisms in Washington, D.C.? Unplug yourself and listen to Renegade Ramblers Radio, where renegade thinking is always outside of the box.
Locutus of Borg. Resistance is futile. Your life, as it has been, is over. From this time forward, you will service us. Mr. Wolf.
Tired of servicing to cybernetic organisms in Washington, D.C.? Unplug yourself and listen to Renegade Ramblers Radio, where renegade thinking is always outside of the box.
Welcome back to Renegade Ramblers Radio, where our guest tonight is Suzanne Sherman of the Suzanne Option on Veritas Radio Network. And Suzanne, we had you come on tonight to discuss federalism, and we've gone pretty far afield. We're halfway through the show, and we haven't even touched on what we had you come on to talk about tonight. And kind of where this came from, I think you, the other day, were talking about the incorporation doctrine. And I'm just going to read the preamble to the first 10 amendments, and then I'm going to let you go from there. The convention of the number of states having at the time of their adopting the Constitution expressed the desire in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added, and as extending the ground of public confidence in the government will best ensure the benefit ends of its institutions. So from the very beginning, they understood that these first 10 amendments were a restriction on the federal government, had nothing to do with the states. And now we have the incorporation doctrine because of the 14th Amendment.
Of course, what the powerful branch, the legislative branch, would bring into law. The judiciary branch also was not supposed to be equal to the other two as well. What's left off of this little diagram, which should have been in big neon color highlighter pens and all over the place should have been the states, because the states, according to the founding fathers, were going to be the final guardians of liberty. They were to be the check on an unrestrained national government. And that was the point of having the Bill of Rights, to make sure that the further restrictions and that what was going to avoid confusion was to make sure that the right to, again, pre-existing rights to have freedom of speech, freedom of religion would not be infringed upon by Congress, because the First Amendment sets that Congress shall make no law. Second Amendment, again, now we're seeing this ties into what where we left off when you said that homeschoolers were now going to be possibly benefiting from some tax breaks. Again, the federal government has no business doing this. So the Second Amendment, again, with this national reciprocity, HR 38 that we see coming in, is something along the same lines. Now, we're another example of us having a national government. Not only,
I'm sorry,
ahead.
let me just interrupt here. The other day, you were discussing with another friend of ours, Mark Kreslins, this whole issue, and he brought up something that really started me to thinking. That whole part about they can appoint who they want, that whole ambiguity is what really led us to where we are today. I mean, that whole, it was ambiguous. And Mark and I, for a long time, have talked about how the landmines were just built into this Constitution that brought us to where we are. And Patrick Henry warned us of that in the ratification debates. He just said, man, this thing is going to destroy the states. And boy, was he right.
Yeah, he said he smelled a rat. He was right. It's a big, fat, nasty, flea-infested sewer rat indigenous to D.C. that's worked its way all across the rest of the continental landmass.
Yes, it has. So, anyway, what I was getting with that is it really made me think, because I'd never thought about those appointments and how that really opened the door to where we're at. Because now we have them appointing all these different levels of bureaucracy, and here we go with this whole thing with the schools. Now they're going to be controlling the schools through the bureaucracy, through all these appointments. They're going to control the gasoline through all these appointments in Department of Energy. They're going to control the environment through all these appointments in the EPA. Boy, did that Constitution really stink when it was ratified. I mean, I can't believe that more people didn't listen to Patrick Henry and just go screaming, running away from it.
Well, John Adams said that it was only suitable to a moral and just society, and we have neither today. I think, when we talk on our network about restoring the proper order, if we had the proper order and we had a moral and just society, this probably could have worked out. I think it was very optimistic, and I don't think they ever anticipated us outgrowing the fish tank, so to speak. But this is why it's so important to remember this concept of federalism. Now everybody talks about the United States as a nation and how we need to come together. We need to unite. We cannot possibly unite. There are too many of us. And again, when now we have a national government, everybody with this concealed carry reciprocity bill is turning to Washington, D.C., when what we have is a state issue. People are inconvenienced because the laws vary from state to state with regards to where you can carry your firearm concealed. There's reciprocity with Utah, with 30 other states. And it varies. California has zero reciprocity. But that is within the providence of the states to decide. That is the quintessential example. This is the heart and soul of federalism, because what these people, and I'm going to debate somebody who is another NRA instructor and a radio show host. He's on Before Sean, Liberty Watch Radio, who is very much in favor of this, and he's citing the full faith and credit clause, and his understanding of that is fundamentally flawed. He doesn't know what it means at all. I was on his show. I explained everything factually and within the proper historic content, and he just still is not convinced that I had anything of value to say. So he's going to come on my show, and we're going to go into this in depth. I'm not going to convince him, but what I want is for listeners to hear the point of view from somebody that thinks that the state really don't matter at all, and what really matters, as long as it's something we like, if it comes from Washington, D.C., that's fantastic. If it's something we don't like, that's not so good.
I had this very discussion at work that you're talking about the other day. One of the guys at work was saying, "Oh, I can't wait till we get this national reciprocity." I said, well, let's back up just a little bit. What states' laws are they going to base the reciprocity on? Because we have 50 different ones. As a matter of fact, I believe there's still one state that doesn't even have a concealed carry permit. So, and I believe that's Illinois.
Well, the Supreme Court overruled that. They said that was a violation of the Second Amendment using the magic fairy dust incorporation doctrine.
Of course, but I don't think that the state itself has. They passed a, well, that's their material. But at any rate, the fact of the matter is, I made the guy actually started thinking. He said, I never thought of that. That's a really good idea. I said, so are they going to use California's or may issue as their rule for the national reciprocity, or are they going to use Montana's constitutional carry that they don't even need anything? They can do it because their constitution, I'm hoping they're citing their constitution, the Montana Constitution, says they can carry and they don't need anything. So there is no permit. So which one are they going to use?
Well, and that's a very good question. When I asked that question of Charles Heller, he said, well, we're going to let the good news is Donald Trump's going to be appointing a Supreme Court member, and hopefully this will make its way to the Supreme Court. And the problem is, this type of rhetoric, inconsistent state decisions, renders this ripe for review from the Supreme Court. That's what we're taught in law school. Inconsistencies of the state was the fundamental platform upon which these United States, our compact of a voluntary union, was formed. It was okay to be inconsistent, but everybody wants consistency. And what's going to happen, rather than having 50 different options, we're going to have one. And what do you think it's going to resemble? Because we have one of our politically connected lawyers in black dresses swinging it our direction, it might be okay. But what's going to happen when we don't have this power? What happens when the court shifts and we get somebody in there where the balance is anti-gun rights? And then they're going to say, you know what, we're just not going to issue these at all because society is just to the point it's too dangerous, and we are going to essentially have our own de facto constitutional convention and abrogate the Second Amendment. They've done that with the other ones as well.
Yeah, and that's the problem. They're giving it back to a court that shouldn't be talking about it anyway. The Second Amendment takes it out of their purview already. So they have no say in it because the Second Amendment does not give that to the national. I said national, yes, because that's what we have, national government. Well, it's time for a break. This is Renegade Ramblers Radio, where Renegade thinking is always outside the box. We're going to come back and pick up where we're leaving off with Suzanne Sherman after this.
In order to ensure the security and continuing stability, the Republic will be reorganized into the first galactic empire. Society.
The status quo thinkers in government have you down? Listen to Renegade Ramblers Radio, where renegade thinking is always outside of the box.
Oh, welcome back to Renegade Ramblers Radio. Now that I can finally get a question in edgewise, I tell you, get these
Sorry about that, Daniel. I got on a ramble.
See, he's still talking. Yeah, okay. Anyway, now back to the homeschooling thing, because we pulled my kids out of public school. We had to register, and we have to turn in. Oh, let's see. We have to turn in examples of the curriculum. We have to turn in their attendance record, and this all has to go to the evaluator. The evaluator turns in one letter to the school district saying, yeah, they meet the standards. Have a nice day. Bye-bye. But anyway, that's my homeschooling situation right now, but I'm kind of limited because, well, my kids were in public school, so I had to have a reason for pulling them out.
Well, mine were, I had mine in private school, and then I put them in, it was called California Virtual Academy, which was essentially a home-based charter school. So it was a public school, and they sent us all the curriculum. I followed by what they sent us, and we worked with a teacher, and it was a really nice first step because I was very intimidated. I had two young boys. My younger one didn't know how to read yet. Oh my goodness, is he gonna learn to read without the government interfering or educating him for me? And so I did that, and it lasted, I think we did it for a year or two. And when I finally decided, because the curriculum just wasn't interesting for the boys, and when I pulled them out, the teacher informed me, okay, I've notified your school district. I said, what? Oh, yes. You know, of course, my children had to be reported to the school district. And at that point, I had a couple options. I could follow up with the, I don't even remember the name of the district. I could follow up with the local district and register with them as an independent study student, or let them know I was homeschooling and I guess do it under their auspices, or file what they call an R4 affidavit. And at the time, I thought, okay, I'll bite. We'll see what's on there. I had to have a special outgoing message for an answering machine, somebody on staff to administer my records, some sort of record keeper. I mean, it just got really silly. So I didn't do any of it. The district never contacted me, and we've gone our own way. And in Utah, the rule was, well, you had to register with the district and promise to follow through with the same curriculum and the same number of hours. Well, that's stupid, because why do my kids need to be in school that long when I have two of them and they get independent, or they get their own teacher, so they get the focused attention. So I didn't do that either. And now Governor Herbert did change the law. He signed the law into effect that said we don't have to send the same amount of hours. How nice of the Crown to do that, but we had to study the same material. Once again, I'm not going to do that. I'm homeschooling for a reason. There's certain course material I want my children to learn. As you guys know, I travel, I take them to see things, and there are some things that aren't taught in the school that I want them to know as well. So I'm, again, not following that law, and they're doing very well. In fact, I'm going to have my son on my show one of these days. He's doing remarkably well. He's doing race car engineering. He's 18 years old and now doing his second job doing manufacturing and designing race car simulators, very, very high-end ones, by the way. And he's not going into debt for college. And he learned, the funny thing is with his job, charge of keeping track of all the maintenance records and the whereabouts and everything going on with these $300,000 Porsches. And he's doing this all on a spreadsheet that he taught himself how to use when he was racing his little Hot Wheels around the table. He would log their positions on and learned how to use spreadsheets. And now he's transferred that over to a career.
Yeah, it's wonderful what the kids can learn. Luckily in Pennsylvania, like I said, all we have to do for the school board is turn in a piece of paper, an affidavit, and the affidavit says, yeah, we'll teach them math, English, history, the bare requirements. And
Sure.
like, as long as the evaluator's good with the way you're doing it, you don't have a problem. Luckily, we have an evaluator that told us to be minimalist and we don't need any of this stuff. If she doesn't want it, she doesn't want to store it. So we're lucky there. But yeah, we had to do all that because they were in public school, and the public school would have reported us if we had just pulled them out.
Well,
Right.
and this goes back to our system of federalism, because now with Common Core and then these federal credits for homeschoolers, you're going to have these guidelines set up by people that have absolutely no understanding for your community, for your family, for what's going on in your state. Dwayne Stovall, who's running for United States Senate from Texas, and we talk about scale and proper scale of government. And imagine, I think he used the term Spain, telling Spain that somebody in Russia is going to tell them how they're going to run their schools or their healthcare centers. You can't have, this goes back to, what was it? Alan Payne was saying how you can't, it just stands to, it's common sense that an island cannot run a continent. It's all about scales and a representative form of government, consent by the governed. We simply don't have that right now in this national system. And that's why we try to talk about ways that we could get back to a more representative form of government, try and get it back to state and local control. But even then, look how populated we are and look at how different we all are, even within our own states. I don't know what the answer is.
Well, it's certain that the feds don't have the answer. And the
That's
feds
a great start.
with it. I'm just like you were saying with the hotel tax and then the cement committee, or I think you said cement committee out there. There's no reason for it. It's just they want the money. They want the control, and it's got to end. It's going to end one way or another. We can either leave now or leave after the collapse. I prefer to go ahead and leave before the collapse, but we'll see what happens.
But I encourage you to listen to really break it down and ask Charles to explain what this law is, what it is not. We're going to explore the constitutional authority for this, which we know doesn't exist, but I'm going to walk through and then explore the different justifications he has, full faith and credit privileges and immunities, and then get into, again, we have to analyze the preamble, the Second Amendment, the 10th Amendment, the Bill of Rights, and then the incorporation doctrine under the 14th Amendment, and lay it all out. And if you decide that you like this national solution for a state issue, it's because you have a desired outcome, a policy outcome that you must arrive to irrespective of your constitutional claims, because you cannot wave the Second Amendment flag and then tout the Constitution and shred it at the same time. You have to say, you know what, I don't care about the Constitution. I like this law. I want to be able to take my firearms wherever I can go, even though I'm running a significant risk of an infringement upon my rights from later administrations. That's the only conclusion you can come to.
Suzanne, I want to touch on something here. I know there's a lot of people that keep talking about the whole license thing, and now I'm going to go to a different license, the driver's license. People say, well, the states accept everyone else's driver's license. I believe, isn't that basically a quid pro quo? Pennsylvania accepts Utah because Utah accepts Pennsylvania's. The federal government isn't making us do that. That is a state making agreements with each other.
That's exactly what I say.
And can't we do that with our gun permits? Isn't that what we're already doing?
I tell people, look, quote me the federal statute that mandates states accept each other's driver's licenses. And they don't all do that, by the way. They have different age restrictions, age requirements for them. Some kids' permits are not accepted in other states because they don't rise to that age level. So it's not unanimous. And the problem is, the difference, as I should say, is it's a matter of common sense. Look, why would a state just relegate an entire population that cannot travel, cannot spend money, cannot pass through their territory? It would be economic suicide to do something like that. But again, a state absolutely has within its providence to decide what types of people or standards are going to be used for issuing concealed carry permits. Because as we remember, the federal government is strictly prohibited from having any types of legislation, good or bad, in the area of firearms. So you have the Second Amendment, and also nowhere in Article 1, Section 8 is the federal government granted, obviously, the right to in any way, shape, or form regulate firearms. So what does that mean? It's not prohibited to the states, so that we only have one conclusion. The only entity that can regulate firearms are the states. Just because the states don't accept all of them across the board does not mean that the federal government should come in and mandate that they do. Well, who's behind this? Well, what I always say is follow the money. Who has the most to gain by putting this forward as a contentious bit of legislation? Well, gee, how about the NRA? How about National Association of Gun Rights? All of these gun associations are making a fortune. My phone has rang so many times because the NRA, I am a member, I will not renew again. They have now a breadbasket, getting people to donate money, because now, guess what? Once this becomes a national issue, and then we don't like the way things go, they're going to be guaranteed in perpetuity job security here. What they need to do is just have state agencies fighting for gun rights. States need to ignore, nullify as without legal effect, unconstitutional mandates coming from the federal government when it comes to firearms. That's the way we can fix this. That would be a truly federal system as opposed to national. The F word's always the answer.
Federalism. Hey, Suzanne, we're almost out of time. We're up. We got seconds. Thank you for being on our show tonight. And guess what's on in just a few minutes?
I'm so on my way.
The Walking Dead. I know, Daniel, you're not very interested, are you?
I'll be with Mike Church talking about it tomorrow.
And I'll catch up then. Anyway, this is Renegade Ramblers Radio. I'm going to go ahead and take us out here. And just to mention, California already does that with trucks. If you have a truck that's past 10 years old, I believe, California will stop you at the border. They will fine you, and they will turn you around. So there is a state that's already stopping people for not having so-called CARB-compliant equipment. But anyway, now, since I kind of stole the spotlight there for a second, this is Renegade Ramblers Radio. If you're listening to us on Shoutcast, welcome. We'll be re-airing this every 5 hours or so, and you can catch us on YouTube. And if you like YouTube, like it, subscribe so we know you're listening. Anyway, that is our show for tonight. Y'all have a good evening and good night.